It develops typical forms and conventions of real media products in multiple ways. These ways include interviews, vox pops, rules of thirds, cutaways and genre. One way is through the use of camera. This includes the framing and mise-en-scène. Our framing followed the simple rules of thirds convention in order to allow our main focus to take to the subject in an interview, but still allowing the background to be present, showing relevant aspects within the shot. Our framing supports the mise-en-scène being relevant and necessary to what is being discussed or to who the person is in the interview. Most documentaries do. As most documentaries do, we alternated which side in each interview was taken on to give variation. The typical conventions of the documentary was favoured by presenting multiple vox pops of people answering one simple question with two or more minimal word answers. This shows a quick overview of the public's opinion and can make the audience feel more involved, so we followed this convention accordingly. In terms of sound, we had one main track playing beneath the entire documentary. This is known as the music bed, and the volume of this sound was reduced during the interviews and the voiceover. Our voiceover was relevant to the documentary as it was informative, which is what we wanted our documentary to appear as. When advertising a production, the voiceover is conventionally the same as the one within the documentary, so we stood by this and used the same person. Our media product does not challenge any forms or conventions of real media products. We decided not to do this as it would make it more complex for ourselves, and it would not look like a documentary, and it would not look as professional. It is narrated accordingly to the structure. We structured our documentary to present multiple takeaways to show the popularity of them in this day and age. The documentary then progressed onto the positives and negatives of takeouts, which supported interviews from takeout owners and a science tutor. Opinions are weaved in where necessary to relate the public to the documentary. This is through interviews and vox pops. During interviews, we use graphics like professional documentaries to present the name and profession of the interviewee to the audience. We used a dissolve to blend this text into the footage as the interview began. The dissolve meant that the full focus could remain on the interviewee and what they were discussing without interruption. The graphics were used on the first interview with each interviewee. This was to get the audience to recognise who each person is. After watching and analysing multiple professional documentaries, I have discovered this convention. Over the top of voiceovers and interviews, we placed relevant cutaways which gave a visual insight to what was being discussed during that particular time. The cutaways were short and many were used and followed on from one another. This is a convention of documentaries, and to further it we use cutaways to tell a story. By this I mean that we would have an interviewee describing the process of something, and our cutaways would lead on to one another in a linear sequence, showing the chronological order of events. Not only did our cutaways do this, but they also disguised any jump cuts between the shots. The cutaways were placed whether there were jump cuts, the transitions between interviews, during long speeches and voiceovers. The purpose of cutaways is to give the audience something to look at whilst information is being given. It often draws attention and gives focus to a topic. Images can often be more impacting than audio, so it is good to give a variety of both. It also keeps the audience more engaged.